Hi, I'm Rick the Railroad Guy. Welcome to the Dynamite Rio Verde and Eastern Railroad. We're in North Scottsdale, Arizona on a private residence. I've started this railroad back in 2002, November 1st. We tied up the main lines at Promontory Point, May 10th, 2003 at 11:51 a.m. That was 135 years and 4 minutes after the real Golden Spike. The railroad consists of a little over 4,000 linear feet of track. Each main line of this double track mainline railroad is 1,250 feet long. About, 3 years ago, the owners and I were standing on this deck and I was showing off by running a 50-car train, and Pat said, "Boy, that's a long train. I bet you could run a really long train on this railroad." And somewhat jokingly I said, "Oh, Pat, we could run the world's longest train here." Thinking that I was just joking, I was wrong. Pat came back at me with, "Hey, that'd be cool. Let's see how that would work." That was roughly 4 or 5 years ago. We've since had the record in Perth, Australia at 3.8 scale miles in HO. Now it's in Germany at 5.8 scale miles, also in HO scale, and also indoors. This is the first time we're going to try and do it here with the Guinness World Book of Records on this railroad. We need to go at least 6 scale miles. Our main line is 6.9 scale miles long, and we are going to try it Saturday, April 26, 2008, with a train equal to 1,250 feet. We're going to try and extend that with whatever railroad cars we have left in the rail barn. And we're going to have some fun with about 35-40 people trying to run this train at one time. As we started this activity on the railroad, it came about by me talking to Dan Hogue at Eagle Wings Ironcraft. Dan Hogue is probably the best promoter of garden railroading in the country, and he and I are really good friends. Well, he's doing the open house every year, and I thought I'd surprise him and do the world's longest model train during his open house. We've got about 25-30 people that are volunteering to help set the train. I need 22 engineers on staff because this whole train is going to be run battery operated with Localink radios and receivers in them. All the locomotives are standard GP30s from USA Trains. We have 84 articulated well car sets for the first 2/3 of the train, and the last will be scattered unit trains of tank cars, hopper cars, box cars, and if we need the length of the train, it'll also have passenger cars on the tail end. We don't care, we just need the length. Talking to Guinness, we need to have the train run for 9.32 scale miles. That means 1 1/3 laps on this railroad. We're going to mark out the railroad with rebar every 100 feet so we know where the train starts, how long it's been run, and where we can shut it down if we ever want to. I'm hoping that once the train is actually rolling, we don't have to slow it down or stop it until the batteries are dead. So we'll probably get 2.5 to 3 laps out of the train if it'll all start at one time. The trick will be all the engineers will be looking at the 4 cars in front of their engine set. They have to shove into the first 2 cars so the knuckles go loose, and they have to make sure that they're not shoving into the articulated sets in front of that. That way they know they're shoving just hard enough to push the train in front of them, but not hard enough to push it off the tracks. We've done these experiments already with 2 very fine young engineers, a man named Casey and a man named Ryan. Their combined age is roughly 20. 2 very nice kids, and they've proven to me that just about anybody can learn how to use Localink and make it run properly. We're setting the train now. Those guys have been working out there for about an hour and a half, just setting the first half of the train in line. Fortunately, we got a lot of people through the Garden Railways ad we put in to supply us with equipment. I bought all the locomotives, all the radio receivers, all the transmitters, all the batteries, and I'm having people from all over the country and all over the world sending us articulated well car sets with their own containers. We're going to use them for the activity. Once we're done and we've got the record, they'll be signed. There'll be a certificate going to each set of cars, a hat, a DVD a still picture of their cars at one certain location on the railroad, and a very thank you from me, because I couldn't have done it without the rest of the garden railroaders in the country and in New Zealand, now that I think about it. And the nice part about that is we're bringing the hobby together like it's never been brought in. Most of the time when somebody goes after something special like this, they want to be the only one. They want to be the special guy. They want to be the whatever. I love trains. I got train on the brain. I've had it on me since I was 3 years old. So to bring everybody together to make this train roll, total strangers are here right now. I don't know who the heck is over there, but they're running, they're happening, they're trying to be a part of a world record. I think it's spectacular. All right, welcome everybody to the attempt for Guinness World Book of Records, the world's longest model train. This is our 10 o'clock meeting. We're gonna have one more at 1 p.m. They're important for one reason. I wanna know status on where you guys are at, besides every time you ask me a question. When we start up, you're gonna be responsible to make sure that it stays on the track and on track. We have to make 1 1/3 laps on the track in one piece at one time. So everybody's going to have their eyes on certain parts of the train to make sure that they run. Engineers, I will teach you what you have to look at. Blue hats, you're going to have another section to watch to make sure that we're up and rolling. We will try and test 2 sections of the train at a time so the engineers get a good understanding of what's going on. After all the time and putting these trains together and building them for a living, I've had a lot of time to think about doing the world's longest train and doing something spectacular. And while working on that idea, I realized that I couldn't have done this alone. Not only the people that are supplying us with cars, but I can trace this all the way back to my 3rd grade teacher. She's the one that got me on the path that brought me to this job. My parents, who let me play with trains rather than studying books. And most of all, my wife, Lori. If it wasn't for her, I would have never had the patience or the consistency to do something like this. So when I talk to kids about model railroading, when I talk to people that show up for this railroad once a week to play with the trains, I realize that it's not me that's doing it. And I don't think any big project like this can be done by an individual. If you don't have a support team, this railroad just couldn't have run, and it couldn't be as good as it is. So I want to thank all those people, just to let them know that I really appreciate what they've done for me. We have everything done except one bridge that has to be built for down there over the gap at the shoe fly. And if Maintenance Away would get on that, I would actually have it finished. By the way, I'm Maintenance Away. If there's anything you need, find one of us. We'll put it together for you. We got some really good helpers here. We got really good people on train. There's no reason this thing won't run. See you at 1 o'clock. Section of train right now is going to be 2 units, 7 sets of articulated well cars with or without containers, and 2 individual well cars at the tail end. That is one section of train that you will have to run. These controllers do that for you. You have to balance your locomotives, know how to run the controller, and watch the train in front of you, not the train behind you. As you are running your locomotives, you're going to be looking at those last 2 well cars in front of you, and you are going to try and balance your locomotives to shove into them so the knuckles on the couplers are loose. Everybody understand? Anybody want to a look at that.
You got to be pushing.
You got to be
You gotta
pushing.
have the slack drawn in.
Got to have slack drawn in. The reason for that is you're now shoving on the train in front of you. You're not pulling that train apart. We have more trouble by having tension on it. You'll pull it onto the inside of a curve. It's very hard to shove hard enough to push out of the curve. So, the 2 cars in front of your engines are more important than the 35 cars behind you. You have to keep an eye on that. You will have one other person with you as a brakeman conductor at the middle of your train watching what's going on. Go find your locomotives, pick them up, go find an empty space of track, and start testing them. Well, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, but it's a lot like the guy that tried to commit suicide off of a 100-story building. He jumped off, and at about, the 60th story, somebody looked out and said, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, not so bad, not bad yet." That's how it feels today. We've had 7 attempts. I made 2 mistakes, and I'm gonna clear them up. We're gonna try again tomorrow. I'm not discouraged by any means. We can roll each one of the trains, we know that. We can roll them in tandem, we know that. Now it's just tying them all together. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So, we try again tomorrow. Just like anything else, you're only defeated if you stop.